Greetings from Tokyo. This is Daisuke Beppu. How are you doing today? I hope all of you are doing very well. I'd like to take this opportunity, if I may, to just take a few moments to make some comments about a very interesting and famous film. It is a film that has been released into the Criterion collection, and that film is Seven Samurai. This is spine number 2 of the Criterion collection. This is Seven Samurai, which is a film from 1954, directed by a gentleman whose name is Mr. Akira Kurosawa. This is a black and white film from Japan. I have actually spoken about this film in a series I have done called 5 by Criterion. And I spoke about this film in that series, but I'd like to take the opportunity now to speak about it again, because I think it is a very rich and rewarding film. And if you haven't seen it, please note that I will try to keep this discussion as spoiler-free as possible. But I would recommend that you watch the film first before you watch this video. So if you're still here, let me just talk very briefly about Seven Samurai. Very quickly, the Blu-ray release that I have here is a 2-disc Blu-ray release, and you have disc 1, which has the film itself. The film is very long. It's about, 200 minutes, 207 minutes. So this is a very long film, but it's a very rewarding film, and believe me, it goes by very quickly. The film also has 2 audio commentary tracks. The first track being one that's provided by David Desser, Joan Mellon, Stephen Prince, Tony Raines, and Donald Ritchie. And the other commentary track being provided by Michael Jeck. Disc 2 is the supplements disc, and disc 2 has the 50-minute documentary on the making of the film called It Is Wonderful to Create. And then there is a 2-hour video conversation between Akira Kurosawa and director Nagisa Oshima called My Life in Cinema, which is a fascinating supplement, by the way. Then there's another documentary called Seven Samurai, Origins and Influences. And there is a set of trailers and also a gallery of stills and posters. And there's also a great booklet featuring essays by Kenneth Turan, Peter Cowie, Philip Kemp, Peggy Chow, Alan Silver, Stuart Galbraith, Arthur Penn, and Sidney Lumet, and an interview from 1993 of the actor Toshiro Mifune. Oh gosh, I just really love this film. I love Seven Samurai so much. I think it's an important film in many respects. It is, I think, ultimately, it is just a wonderful action-adventure film. It is essentially about a farm village that hires a bunch of samurai in order to protect it from a gang of marauding raiders. Samurai have to plan, and they have to plan their defense, and thus they have to plan their attack. And in order to do that, they have to fortify the village, they have to prepare the farmers, they have to train the farmers, they have to prepare a strategy and know exactly who they are fighting. And it's a real wonderful epic in that respect. So we have the preparation of the battle, and then we have the battle itself. And so when we see the battle, we know all the nuances of the details of the strategy, and we know the layout, and we know the geography, and so therefore we are even more engaged when we see the battle scenes, and thus they become more suspenseful and more terrifying, and we are the samurai and the villagers as they fight these bandits as they try to attack and raid the village of rice and other goods. So the film is a very well-structured film. It is a very well-structured film in that there is a clear goal and there is a focus, and the problem is highlighted to us immediately. We have a village that is trying to defend itself from an upcoming attack from bandits that is expected to come sometime later, or after the food has been harvested. So what are these villagers to do? The plan, therefore, is hatched to have these villagers hire samurai. So then we have to follow the villagers as they hire the samurai one at a time. And it's not an easy task, too, because there's a certain class difference that exists between the samurai class or the warrior class on the upper echelons of the class structure. And then we have the farmers, which are on the lower part of the class scheme in Japan. So we have this class divide that is immediate and palpable. And yet we have to see these farmers somehow overcome these obstacles in order to basically survive, because if they don't find a way to do so, they are probably going to die. They're probably going to be murdered, or they're going to be dying from starvation or something equally as abhorrent. So there's a lot riding. There's a lot at stake with respect to hiring these samurai, and thus immediately the narrative is off, as it were, and we are off and running, and we are immediately thrust into being sympathetic with these farmer characters and their plight, and one by one we want them to succeed, but we see them fail spectacularly time and time again, until we gradually get a picture of the samurai one at a time who are going to help these farmers, not for much money or reward, but because it is the right thing to do. The film introduces us to these samurai led by Kanbei, who is played with great confidence and immaculate screen presence by the great actor Takashi Shimura. Now, he is the one who shaves his head and he pretends to be a monk in order basically to try to save a young child at the very beginning of the film. And so that leads him to his very memorable gesture of rubbing his head whenever he is engaged in thought. And it's a very endearing gesture. And it's suggestive of his character. You know, he is very contemplative, and he knows the importance of strategy, and he is very intelligent. At least he has a very deep depth of military intelligence, and yet he knows when he needs to exert authority, and he knows the importance of discipline. You know, so he's not always a nice character, if you know what I mean, and therefore he is a very heroic character. And then we have the other samurai that come into play. You know, we have the younger samurai that wants to be his student, Katsushiro. There's also the great swordsman, Kyuzo. He is really probably the coolest samurai of the bunch, because he is such the ultimate swordsman. It is just a marvel to see his swordsmanship at play. Kyuzo, yes. And then there is the Shichiroji, who's played by Daisuke Kato. And then there is Heihachi, played by Minoru Chiaki. And then there is also Gorobe, played by Yoshio Inaba. So yes, that's 6. And then, of course, there is one more samurai who's not really a samurai, is he? Or is he? He certainly shows his strength and courage, which we see glimpses of. We also see his failed potential, and that is Toshiro Mifune, who plays Kikuchiyo. And when I say failed potential, I mean that we see him fail so many times in the film, especially in the first half of the film. And thus he's sort of an annoying character. But as the film progresses and we understand what his story and situation is, we realize that he is quite a profoundly important character, and he grows in stature as the film progresses until the great climax, of course, when you have this great battle between the farmers and the samurai on the one hand, with Kikuchiyo playing a real key, crucial role, and then the bandits attacking the village on the other hand. And it is one of the great, most intense, exciting, electrifying battles I have ever seen on cinema. So those are the characters that we follow in terms of the samurai. And then we have the progression, that is the planning stage and the preparation stage, and then the implementation stage. So therefore we have this structure that is presented to us, the viewer, very clearly and very precisely from the outset. And thus that is the beauty of this film as directed by Kurosawa. You know, he has a real wonderful sense of structure, and there's a neatness and tidiness that occurs with respect to this preparation and planning, so much so that we know what the details are by the time the film erupts into its battles. And that's the wonderful thing too, because as much as we can plan and prepare for the battle, and as much as Kurosawa prepares us for that, by the time we reach the battles, we realize that all that planning and all that preparation, as useful as it has been, ultimately doesn't matter, because even the best plans have weaknesses. And so it is that those weaknesses that emerge that create this incredible amount of suspense when we actually see the battles erupt before our very eyes. And these are no longer little circles on a piece of paper. No, these are men fighting men, and women trying to protect themselves. So this is by far a wonderful device that Kurosawa uses. On the one hand, he is very precise and very clear in terms of his structure, giving us the preparation, the planning, the preparation, and the battle. But on the other hand, when the battle erupts, it is quite chaotic, to the point that we realize that the planning is not necessarily going according to plan. At least all of it is anyway. So we therefore are on edge, and we are the battles are so suspenseful, and thus we don't know what is going to happen, who is going to live and who is going to die, because there are people that die. Death is a very immediate thing, and when death occurs, it is final. And there is no coming back from it. There is no fairy tale ending. And that is one of the great things about this film too, is that it doesn't shy away from the harshness and the brutality of fighting and killing. And Kurosawa doesn't shy away from that at all. There are hints of it, and there are examples of this from the beginning. But by the time the battle erupts, my goodness, we feel every thrust, every stroke of the sword. We feel every bullet and every gunshot. And when people are hurt and wounded and dying, we really feel that. And we feel it greatly. And that is one of the strengths. That is probably the greatest strength of this film. Its battle scenes are not only electrifying, but they are purely and so palpably human, that when we watch them, we not only are enveloped by them, and we are not only amazed by them, but we are also hurt by them, and we are devastated by them, and we are left depleted of energy and drained of emotion, because we have been confronted with something that is both truly horrible and truly exhilarating at the same time. So that is Criterion Collection Spine number 2, Seven Samurai. I hope that was interesting for you. If you have any questions or comments about this film and you'd like to discuss this more, please feel free to leave a comment below. I am very happy to address any comments and questions that you have to the extent that I am able to. Anyway, that's it, and I hope to see you again very soon. In the meantime, I hope all of you have a great rest of your day. Cheers.